Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my series reading Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Oliver Twist as read by Lord Naren White. I did. I did. Not to press you to alter your determination, pursued the young man, but to hear you repeat it, if you would. I was to lay whatever of station or fortune I might possess at your feet, and if you still adhered to your former determination, I pledged myself, by no word or act, to seek to change it. The same reasons which influenced me then will influence me now, said Rose firmly. If I ever owed a strict and rigid duty to her, whose goodness saved me from a life of indigence and suffering, what should I ever feel it? As I should tonight. It is a struggle, said Rose, but one I am proud to make. It is a pang, but one my heart shall bear. The disclosure of tonight, Harry began. The disclosure of tonight, replied Rose softly, leaves me in the same position, with reference to you, as that in which I stood before. You harden your heart against me, Rose, urged her lover. Oh, Harry, Harry, said the young lady, bursting into tears. I wish I could, and spare myself this pain. Then why inflict it on yourself? Said Harry, taking her hand. Think, dear Rose, think what you have heard tonight. And what have I heard? What have I heard? Cried Rose. That a sense of his deep disgrace so worked upon my father that he shunned all. There, we have said enough, Harry, we have said enough. Not yet, said the young man, detaining her as she rose. My hopes, my wishes, prospects, feeling, every thought in life except my love for you have undergone a change. I offer you now no distinction among a bustling crowd, no mingling with the world of malice and detraction, where the blood is called into honest cheeks, by aught but real disgrace and shame, but a home, a heart and home. Yes, dearest home, and those alone are all I have to offer. What do you mean? She faltered. I mean but this. When I left you last, I left you with a firm determination to level all fancied barriers between yourself and me, resolved that if my world could not be yours, I would make yours mine, that no pride of birth should curl the lip at you, for I would turn from it. This I have done. Those who have shrunk from me because of this have shrunk from you, and proved you so far right. Such power and patronage, such relatives of influence and rank, as smiled upon me then, look coldly now, but there are smiling fields and waving trees in England's richest county, and by one village church, mine, Rose, my own, there stands a rustic dwelling which you can make me prouder of than all the hopes I have renounced and measured 1,000-fold. This is my rank and station now, and here I lay it down. It's a trying thing waiting supper for lovers, said Mr. Grimwig, waking up, and pulling his pocket handkerchief from over his head. Truth to tell, the supper had been waiting a most unreasonable time. Neither Miss Maylie, nor Harry, nor Rose, who all came in together, could offer a word in extenuation. I had serious thoughts of eating my head tonight, said Mr. Grimwig, for I began to think I should get nothing else. I'll take the liberty, if you'll allow me, of saluting the bride that is to be. Mr. Grimwig lost no time in carrying this notice into effect upon the blushing girl, and the example being contagious was followed both by the doctor and Mr. Brownlow. Some people affirmed that Harry Maylie had been observed to set it, originally in a dark room adjoining, but the best authorities consider this downright scandal, he being young and a clergyman. Oliver, my child, cried Mrs. Maylie, where have you been, and why do you look so sad? There are tears stealing down your face at this moment. What is the matter? in a world of disappointment, often to the hopes we most cherish, and the hopes that do our nature the greatest honor. Poor Dick was dead. Chapter 52. Fagin's Last Night Alive. The court was paved from floor to roof with human faces. Inquisitive and eager eyes peered from every inch of space, from the rail before the dock away into the sharpest angle of the smallest corner in the galleries. All looks were fixed upon one man, Fagin. Before him and behind, above and below, on the right and on the left, he seemed to stand surrounded by a firmament, all bright with gleaming eyes. He stood there in all this glare of living light, with one hand resting on the wooden slab before him, the other held to his ear, and his head thrust forward to enable him to catch with greater distinctness every word that fell from the presiding judge, who was delivering his charge to the jury. At times he turned his eyes sharply upon them to observe the effect of the slightest featherweight in his favor, and when the points against him were stated with terrible distinctness, looked towards his counsel in mute appeal that he would, even then, urge something in his behalf. Beyond these manifestations of anxiety he stirred not hand nor foot. He had scarcely moved since the trial began, and now that the judge had ceased to speak, he still remained in the same strained attitude of close attention, with his gaze bent on him as though he listened still. A slight bustle in the court recalled him to himself. Looking round, he saw that the jurymen had turned together to consider their verdict. As his eyes wandered to the gallery, he could see the people rising above each other to see his face, some hastily applying their glasses to their eyes, and others whispering their neighbors with looks expressive of abhorrence. A few there were who seemed unmindful of him, and looked only to the jury in impatient wonder how they could delay. But in no one face, not even among the women, of whom there were many there, could he read the faintest sympathy with himself, or any feeling but one of all-absorbing interest that he should be condemned. As he saw all this in one bewildered glance, the death-like stillness came again, and looking back he saw that the jurymen had turned towards the judge. Hush! They only sought permission to retire. He looked wistfully into their faces, one by one when they passed out, as though to see which way the greater number leaned, but that was fruitless. The jailed touched him on the shoulder. He followed mechanically to the end of the dock and sat down on a chair. The man pointed it out, or he would not have seen it. He looked up into the gallery again. Some of the people were eating, and some fanning themselves with handkerchiefs, for the crowded place was very hot. There was one young man sketching his face in a little notebook. He wondered whether it was like, and looked on when the artist broke his pencil point, and made another with his knife, as any idle spectator might have done. In the same way, when he turned his eyes towards the judge, his mind began to busy itself with the fashion of his dress, and what it cost, and how he had put it on. There was an old fat gentleman on the bench, too, who had gone out, some half an hour before, and now come back. He wondered within himself whether this man had been to get his dinner, what he had, and where he had it, and pursued this train of careless thought until some new object caught his eye and roused another. Not that, all this time, his mind was, for an instant, free from oppressive, overwhelming sense of the grave that opened at his feet. It was present to him, but in a vague and general way, and he could not fix his thoughts upon it. Thus, even while he trembled and turned burning hot at the idea of speedy death, he fell to counting the iron spikes before him, and wondering how the head of one had been broken off, and whether they would mend it or leave it as it was. Then he thought of all the horrors of the gallows and the scaffold, and stopped to watch a man sprinkling the floor to cool it, and then went on to think again. At length there was a cry of silence, and a breathless look from all towards the door. The jury returned and passed him close. He could glean nothing from their faces. They might as well have been of stone. Perfect stillness ensued. Not a rustle, not a breath. Guilty. And we'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care and thanks again.